So we all know that China and North Korea have long histories of authoritarian control. Their policies expose the disturbing lengths they go to assert dominance over their citizens' most intimate decisions, the ones made in the bedroom or made in the home. They are doing this because both nations have a very real and very bad demographic problem. China is projected to lose half its population in the next 75 years. The last time a country lost 50% of its population was nearly 700 years ago when the bubonic plague ravaged Europe. So both China and North Korea are using a mix of coercion, punishment, and propaganda to enforce policies that undermine individual freedoms and violate basic human rights, often with devastating consequences, all to try and control their population sizes. In China, the issue stems from the infamous one-child policy implemented in 1979. This policy, aimed at curbing population growth, subjected millions of families to forced abortions, sterilizations, and the destructions of their homes if they exceeded the government-mandated birth limit. The policy led to a massive gender imbalance, with millions of girls aborted or abandoned due to a cultural preference for sons. By the time the policy ended in 2015, the damage was done. An entire generation grew up with far more men than women, leaving many without the prospect of marriage. There are 104 males for every 100 females in China. This means there are 30 million more males in China than females. Given the lower life expectancy for males, this is an especially telling issue. I mean, in the US, there are 100 females for every 98.5 males, and that makes sense because men have a lower life expectancy. Now, this gender imbalance in China has fueled another horrifying problem: bride trafficking. Women and girls from neighboring countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, Pakistan, and Vietnam are deceived with false promises of employment, then they're abducted and sold into forced marriages in China. Victims frequently endure physical and sexual abuse, forced labor, and severe restrictions on their freedoms. Even within China, women have been kidnapped and trafficked for marriage. One infamous case, the Zhuzhou chained woman incident, involved a woman found chained in a hut in Jiangsu province in 2022. She had been trafficked years earlier and sold as a bride. The case sparked public outrage and shed light on the continuing issue of human trafficking and forced marriages in China. However, Chinese men see really no punishment for them here. They pay as little as $3,000 for one of these kidnapped brides, and rarely do they get caught themselves. There are tens of thousands of women enduring this in China. So although the one-child policy officially ended, the government's grip on reproduction remains firm. Birth rates have fallen dramatically, reaching a staggering low of just one birth per woman in 2022, far below the replacement rate necessary to sustain a population of 2.1 births per woman. In response, China has shifted gears, introducing pro-natalist policies to encourage childbirth. But rather than empowering women and families, these efforts rely on pressure and coercion. Married women report receiving unsolicited calls from local officials asking about their family plans, and government campaigns urge couples to have more children as a patriotic duty. What China doesn't get is it's not coercion and problems that can cause a woman to want to have children. It's the prospect of growth, the prospect of progress, and that her children will be in a safe environment. Single women also have additional restrictions placed upon them. They are barred from accessing fertility treatments like egg freezing, which is reserved for married couples only. China's authoritarian control extends to divorce as well. In 2023, the government introduced a mandatory 30-day cooling off period for divorces, making it harder for couples to separate. Officials claim this policy reduces impulsive decisions, but critics argue it traps people, mainly women, in abusive marriages under the guise of promoting social stability. Now, this divorce law has actually the opposite effect by discouraging women into marriage and family formation. Now, pivoting to North Korea, they take these oppressive measures to an even more extreme level. In 2024, Pyongyang began punishing divorce with labor camp sentences of up to 6 months for both partners. Divorce is labeled as an anti-socialist act, and those who seek it are publicly shamed and imprisoned. Women often face longer sentences than men, reflecting the deeply entrenched gender inequalities within North Korean society. Previously, only the spouse initiating the divorce was punished, even if they were abused, and that notion is just wild to me. But now, as if doubling down, both partners are sent to labor camps, where conditions are harsh and inhumane. A woman who recently completed her sentence described being held alongside dozens of other divorcees in an overcrowded facility. Reproductive rights in North Korea are equally oppressive. Abortion is strictly illegal, and those who perform or undergo the procedure face severe punishment, including imprisonment. Like China, these practices are part of a broader strategy to combat the country's declining birth rate, which stands at 1.79 children per woman. Interestingly, this is actually higher than the US birth rate, but the US cheat code, as I've always called it, is that immigration keeps the US demographically healthy. People want to move here, young people want to move here from other countries, and that keeps the United States healthy. Women in North Korea are not only denied reproductive freedom, but they're also subjected to public shaming campaigns designed to force traditional family structures on top of them. For example, parents of divorced couples are shamed, and workplaces with high divorce rates are singled out and humiliated in public forums. Women are also required to attend mandatory lectures urging them to build harmonious families and avoid divorce, which basically are classes on how to be subservient to an abusive husband. Beyond reproductive and marital control, North Korea uses its authoritarian power to maintain a stranglehold on social norms. Cohabitation outside marriage is heavily policed, and unmarried couples are pressured to wed or face legal consequences, which is strange because cohabitation tends to lead to more of the action that creates children. So I don't know why they're so against it. Nonetheless, it is a cultural norm that they don't want to have present in their society. Now, both China and North Korea have demonstrated a willingness to go to extraordinary lengths to control their populations. China, under the guise of economic stability and modernization, coerces its citizens into marriage and parenthood while imposing restrictions that make family life increasingly unaffordable. North Korea, in its quest for ideological purity and control, enforces brutal punishments for those who deviate from its rigid expectations. The issue of bride trafficking only adds to the grim realities faced by women in these nations, who are often treated as commodities in a system designed to prioritize state goals over individual freedoms. These regimes' meddling in family and reproductive rights is not just a violation of personal autonomy, it's a calculated strategy to maintain power at any cost, and the bottom line is, it's evil.